One other piece of news that came out of this article was the discussion that there was talks about a Days Gone sequel that got canceled, and we kind of got a little bit of information of what that might have looked like. So it looks as though one of the directors or someone involved with Days Gone 2 went on and spoke with David Jaffe, and they were talking about what a Days Gone 2 would have looked like. And he was talking about how Days Gone 2 was rejected, but ultimately what he was kind of seeing was he wanted to see like a co-op open world kind of, online sort of shared universe. So it says, according to IGN's Matt Perslow's article, when asked by Jaffe if the idea for a co-op mode would have been implemented in a sequel, Ross said, "It's one of the things that we had in our pitch. Yeah, it was the idea of a shared universe with co-op play." Explaining the vision of the co-op, Rob describes it as taking this world that you've built, all of the assets and systems, and repurpose them for some sort of similarly themed multiplayer version of the universe. So it would be like it would be with guys like Deacon trying to survive, building up clubhouses or crew. I think it'd be fun in that world cooperatively and see what the horde battles could look like.
It sounds a lot
Adam,
like State of Decay to me.
I was gonna say it does sound a lot like State of Decay. Now you are the resident Days Gone hater, so
And
I
State of
wanted
Decay
to.
lover, ironically enough.
Oh, interesting. So I wanted to talk to you about, would that co-op mode have been enough for you to bring you into
If
Days
it
Gone
was just
fandom?
the co op mode, probably, because I would not want the resources wasted on what I thought was a pretty boring story that kind of kicked me out within the first 2 hours. But I
Mhm.
mean, it's not my place. Like, if clearly not every game is going to be designed for me, so it's not like, if they wanted to make a story mode and then happen to have some multiplayer sprinkled in it, I mean, I guess that's whatever they want to do. If it really was focused much like Save Decay, we got a whole different ballgame here. That's because here's the thing. So I didn't really discuss too much of why I didn't like Days Gone.
Let's talk about
When
that.
you play games, like there's always those few cases where like you play something and after a certain amount of time you just stop and go, you know what? I know that this is not jiving. For me, it's different lengths. Like Ghost of Tsushima, it took until like 10, 20 hours for it to happen. Jedi Fallen Order took between 4 to 5. Days of Gone within the first hour, I knew this was not going to be my thing. And there's a few reasons for it. One of them is I think the zombie trope is overplayed, and in a single player aspect, I don't think it works a lot anymore.
They weren't zombies though. They were freakers. It was different.
I know it's so different. Also, the motorcycle aesthetic isn't really appealing to me, so the biker culture doesn't really do much. So the visuals didn't do it, and quite outside of the biker stuff too, the visuals are just very plain and dull. Like there's nothing vibrant about it. It's in the same vein that like a lot of people don't like Assassin's Creed Origins in comparison to Odyssey because the coloring is so much more vibrant in Odyssey. So that didn't help. And in the same vein of like say a Jedi Fallen Order, like I played Days Gone and within the first hour I'm like I don't like any of these people. I don't care about anything that's going on. And the gameplay was pretty basic, so I didn't feel like any attachment to anything. That's like Ghost of Tsushima, at least the gameplay worked really well, and it's just eventually the story just eroded me. Jedi Fallen Order had the looks, and it had a bit of the gameplay, but again, the characters just weren't doing anything. Days Gone, literally nothing was grabbing my attention. So within an hour, I'm like, nah, this is I can do so many other things. But if you flip
Yeah,
that entire aesthetic to just multiplayer, now it's different because now you're in party chat, you're talking with people, you're doing stupid stuff. Like you're just messing around. Like I play Killing Floor 2 all the time, or Left 4 Dead, or the Zombie Army 4 that just got put on free on PlayStation Plus. Those games, even though they're just basic shoot zombies until you get killed games, they're fun because it's the social aspect and it's the chaotic aspect. Whereas Days Gone, I felt at least in the little because I know there are like the crazy mobs and stuff if you really get into the thick of things, but like it felt more like a rather like depressive, like dull storyline, kind of like what Last of Us kind of does to me as well, which kind of turned me off. That's kind of the sense that I got, which is why I left it. So
yeah. So I share some of those sentiments that you have. I think Days Gone has an amazing, or has an amazing section in the middle, like or towards the end of the game, like where you have all these weapons and you're going off against these, 200-300 people hordes. Like that was the best part of the game. The story for me had moments of like, oh, I'm really interested, and then I had moments where I just didn't care. For me, the problem was that it had a terrible start. It took way too long to get started. You had this crappy bike that didn't really drive well, and you had to constantly maintain it. That being said, I like the bike aspect once you got later into the game. I just felt it took a very long time to get ramped up to a point where you felt like you had some control and some um you were able to kind of like withstand a little bit within that world. And then I felt towards the tail end it took way too long to get to where it was going. Like there was a whole second part that almost could have been like a DLC component. And so I think that's what kind of killed it for them. It's a great game. Like it's fun. I like the story for the most part. I just once again we talk about this all the time is that you just need to know how long your story needs to be. And this one was just one that just took too long to get like start cooking and then was overcooked at the end. So I think that was the problem. I think to be honest, at first I was kind of like, nah, they shouldn't do an online mode or anything. But the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes sense. Like the gameplay was, in my opinion, the best part of that
Well, I
once
mean,
it
let's
hit
be
its
completely
stride.
honest too. Every time people saw those trailers, like the big debut of that game, no one gave a shit about the actual like character that was in it. They just saw the massive run of zombies.
Mhm.
That's chaotic. Like that immediately looks like multiplayer to me. The second I saw it was a single player story game, I'm like, I don't know. Because the idea of having 100, especially now with the PS5, because you know that they could render that real well,
Mhm.
especially with the SSD. You can have like a map where you come off, like you come up a roof and you just see 200 zombies just all like circling around this place and be like, we have to cross that. And you look at your like three buddies and be like, all right, grab your shovels, let's see what happens.
Yeah, so for me, I think the way I would kind of look at it is I don't think an open world or like a shared world makes sense. Like I think that would not be a route I would go because you're in an apocalypse, and so generally you're not supposed like there's not typically a lot of people around
Yeah,
in an
ideally, you're not
apocalypse.
supposed to see that much.
Exactly, right? You're not gonna be like, oh hey, there's a guy like teabagging another guy, like
It's like
you know.
every MMO that it's like you're the one hero, except when you get to the hub world and there's like 50 people running around who are all the hero.
Yeah, so for me, what I would almost want to see is I'd almost want to see something like the Division or something like that, where it's an open world in the sense that you and like a crew of people can go into this single player like into this campaign. So like do sort of a journey where you and your crew are going from point A to point B on your motorcycles, right? You're trying to get back to your chapter house or whatever. You're trying to get back to home and like basically just traversing across America with this crew of yours, like four guys or whatever. I think that would be kind of what I do. So do a linear story, but have it that it could be like done cooperatively. So
It would
sort of
it
like
would also be a story too that like unless you can get some really good writing into these games, which most of these games tend not to have, like sometimes it's decent, but most of the time it's just barely there. It's more there just to keep you moving. Like
well, I mean,
the
what if you did it something like a Ghost Recon Breakpoint? So you could have a single player story with like genuine characters, but what happens is like you could either play it by yourself and have the computer play as the other characters on your crew, or you can have buddies jump in at any point and play, Deacon or I forget the other guy's
Well,
name.
it's not to say it's not possible because I mean Destiny's done a great job of it over time, but it took a little bit
Mhm.
of time for them to get their footing. So I mean it's always doable. It's just a matter of how much do you want to focus on that when realistically, like if you're doing the multiplayer co-op stuff, your focus should always be on the game. The
Mhm.
story really should be coming second, especially for on like. And I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like a game like Days Gone that's a zombie multiplayer game, story really isn't that important because the majority of that story is just survival.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say like let's write the most epic campaign story of all time, but I'm just saying you
Just
could
make
have
just
a
make it
narrative.
like base like bearable enough that it's not going to turn you off, and then just kind of have like a few jokes in there, like have some fun to it. But
Yeah,
like,
like I give the character some personality, but you could just
yeah,
make it a simple story of just, hey guys, we were at like some motorcycle rally when this all broke out, and we need to get back to, you know, the clubhouse or something like that. And then like you can have like your characters with their personality traits, and then just have each one kind of be like their own little character. Swap through them if you wanted to. So like do a situation where you have like your cold ass like sniper guy, you have your crazy explosive pyromaniac guy, and you can swap through them, or you can have like your buddies take over one of them if you wanted to. Like that's kind of how I'd do it. I don't think the shared universe really makes sense. if you wanted to go that shared universe style, I would almost do like a Days Gone, like 1 kind of thing. Like, so like when you start Days Gone, you're like a couple hundred days in or whatever. But if you do like it, like as the apocalypse is breaking out, so you don't have the hordes, but you just have, you're dealing with other people as society is collapsing. Like we always do post-apocalyptic after everyone's dead, but what if we did like the dying days of society and people are like
Kind of like what
fighting for
the
food?
newest Walking Dead series was kind of doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like do like day 1 gone kind of thing. Or there you go. There's the name of the game. 1 Day Gone.
Well, it was supposed to be 2, so maybe it was 2 days gone.
Well, it's a prequel. We're working on it.